Hi there, stats class. Good to see you guys today. Today we want to talk about sample surveys. Just before we do, just please note that I've each week I kind of sign your homework. After I sign it, I start seeing it gathered, and on Sunday at 11:59 p.m. that's when it's due. So immediately on Monday morning I go and grade it. So some of you guys have maybe turned in some late homework. Maybe a good idea to let me know if you submitted something late. I don't go and look for late stuff. I just assume that if you have a week to get done the short amount of work that we do, that you get it done. So I do know that I need to go back and look for some late homework that people have done, and we'll take off points for that being late. I really am trying to do my best, trying to reduce the amount of work. I think that for one class, the amount of work that I've given during the week is hopefully pretty minimal. I do really hope that you guys can do that by Sunday evening at 11:59 p.m. So please keep that in mind. Um, if you need help, please reach out to me. I enjoy engaging with students, over the camera and helping them out with any questions that they have. So don't be afraid to reach out to me if you need that. So today we want to talk about sample surveys. And as we talk about sample surveys, it's important that you try to I guess, remove yourself from any emotion that you have or ties that you have with the statistic. So a lot of times people hear statistics that are involved in the media and they get upset, they get frustrated, and sometimes they wonder, can you trust that information? And that's hard to say. Sometimes there's statistics you hear that you can trust, and sometimes there's stats that you can't. Generally, people feel like, well, if I agree with the statistic, then I can trust it. And if I don't agree with it, then I can't trust it. That's not the way it should work. You should look at the mathematics behind how the information was gathered. And so, one of the most reliable places that we gather data from is a place called Gallup. And so I'm going to take you there today. And as we kind of go to our screen, you can go ahead and go onto the internet, and we're going to type in Gallup Poll, and search that. Gallup is an organization that carries out research of many, many different factors and interests across the entire world, tries to really measure the pulse of the world on different issues. And we're going to look at one of the most common Gallup poll questions. If you notice, I'm at gallup.com right now. I don't want to be there. I'm going to go Gallup poll. I really want Gallup poll, not Gallup. Gallup just talks about the organization itself. Let's see if we can get to Gallup poll here. Well, that's kind of frustrating. I see down here it says Gallup poll. I'm sure that that's one I could click on right there, but you want to, let's see, the address that comes up there is going to be this is the second video I made on this because the first one didn't have any sound to it. So I apologize if some of you tried to open things up earlier. But yeah, let's try this one more time. I'll go to a new tab, Gallup poll. And it brings me just to Gallup. We see that one there. Just not seeing what exactly I saw last time. I'm going to try to put those two words together, Gallup poll. Again, I just don't see what I saw before. But as you search it, it looks like you're going to come up with Gallup poll. Again, that's where you want to get to, and that's where I'm up here. So you see Gallup poll. And the thing that we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the presidency. And as we look at the presidency, it's very common that people want to know what is the approval rating of the president within their job. Now, generally speaking, within America, people are either kind of divided 50-50, Republican, Democrat. So it's very common to see the presidential approval rating around that 50 mark. But also, people are very disenfranchised with politics as a whole, as well as just government. So we tend to see that not just at 50, but slide down lower. I mean, some people will not view any president as doing a good job because they're frustrated with politics in general. So You can see over here, it says president's job approval rating slipped to 44%. Satisfaction in your position, world highest since 2003. So on and so forth. If you go over here, it says President Trump's job approval rating up to 49%. We're going to click on that one. So that's one of the higher approval ratings that President Trump has had in a while. And your first reaction might be, well, that's less than 50%, so that's low. Well, not necessarily. Presidents, whether that be Obama, Bush, Clinton, many presidents have not seen approval ratings very often over 50%. So very common to hover around that 44, 46%. So 49% right now is pretty good. But let's see how we can understand the gathering of that data. First of all, if you click on it, it again talks about his approval rating being 49%. And it says President Trump may be enjoying a small rally in public support as the nation faces COVID-19. So people, seem to rally around America during times of crisis. He may be seeing a bump there. You can see the graph right here. You can see that January 16th, it was at 44%. February 49. Then for a while there in March, it dropped down to 44. Not sure maybe what news related it. The first COVID-19 kind of situation probably came up right. That's when we were in complete lockdown, really, the first time, and then jumped up to that 49%. So that's where we are. And you can see, you could divide it up. Republicans, 91% approve of him. Only 35% of independents. Only 7% of Democrats. If you go over here, again, 49, 92, 43, 13. So actually has had a slight increase in independents and Democrats. Now, here's the interesting piece and what we really want to focus on. As you continue to scroll down, you look at survey methods. How are these people surveyed? This is extremely important. If you were to simply just, pop in at lunch at Albert Lee and sit down and interview people about their feelings about president's job and how he's doing. Well, you're getting a very, very biased sample because you're only interviewing high school kids. And so you're interviewing people who have not held a career, who don't have families yet, things of that nature. And they're going to feel differently than other people. So how do you get a nice random draw of the entire United States? That's a challenging question. It's very difficult to do. In fact, if you really want to try to get that nice kind of slice of representation of the entire United States, they actually use what we call random digit dialing software. So what that means is a computer will pull up 10 digits at random. That could be a phone number, and it'll start dialing it. So they don't know who they're going to get. They might get somebody in Texas. They might get somebody in California. Might get somebody in Minnesota. And then it's incumbent on people to pick up that phone and answer those questions. And so random selection is extremely important. Trying to be random is difficult. I could tell you randomly select somebody, but you would most likely select somebody that currently exists in your phone. You wouldn't select, Joe Schmo that lives in Missouri somewhere. Okay? So selecting at random is important. It says results for this Gallup Poll are based on telephone interviews conducted during that time. Random sample of 1,020 adults. So first of all, the president's approval rating was 49%. The population, it says 1,020 adults were interviewed. 1,020 adults. Now, does that mean that exactly 49% of people across America believe that? No, because there's a margin of error. It might be a little bit less than 49, might be a little bit more than 49. If you go down, it says a sampling error plus or minus 4 percentage points. So that means that plus or minus 4%. So what that means is this 49% could be as low as 45%, or it could be as high as 53%. Now, how do they calculate that margin of error? That's part of what we want to talk about today. Calculating margin of error is challenging sometimes. And especially in this situation, the methods which they use, they have a more what we would call refined margin of error. We're going to show you guys. Let's see, my calculator is right over here. A nice way to calculate margin of error is simply to take 1 divided by the square root of n, where n is your population. So if I write down right here 1 divided by the square root of 1020. I go 1 divided by the square root of 1020. I get 0.03 or 3%. So it's not 4%. Theirs is better, but for us to calculate a general margin of error, that's a good way to do it. It comes up with a pretty decent result. It's a quick way of doing it, much quicker than they do it, but I want you to get used to that kind of calculation of margin of error. So what does this mean? This means if you were to go out and sample 1,000 people, $20 times. Okay, we're going to sample 1,000 people, 1,000 people, 1,000 people, 1,000 people, 1,000 people, 1,000 people, 1,000 people. You're going to do that 20 times. You might find that this one produces a 49% approval rating of President Trump. And this one produces a 47%. And this one produces a 51%. And this one produces a 48%. This one produces another 49%. This one produces a 52%, so on and so forth. See how they're all within that margin of error? Well, one time out of those 20, you might come up with one that is outside those parameters, say a 42% or a 57%. 1 out of 20 times you might come up with one outside of that parameter. That's what that means. And so anyway, that gives you an idea of where some of these statistics come from and how people gather them. And doing these type of sample methods where people are, actually calling and interviewing is actually a really good way of going about it. So that's your first video to kind of give you an idea of Gallup and margin of error. And now what we're going to do is do a second video that teaches you a little bit more how to actually make sense of this and look up some data that might be interesting to you.